Thank you for tuning in to the latest edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. Whether you're listening during your commute, while working out, or just relaxing at home, we appreciate you. Every download, every listen, and every subscription means a lot. Up next, the 12 Kyle podcast.
I think ultimately you need that human connection. I'm not against AI, and I'm not one of those people who are also crazy enough to believe that AI is going anywhere. It's not. It is the wave of the future. Much of what I do on this podcast, as far as what is created here that I present to you, is done via AI, and it'll be done as soon as I hit record, and it'll be done again when I stop recording. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. Thank you for downloading, and thank you for subscribing to the latest edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. I am your boy 12 Kyle. I want to thank you all for tuning in as you do each and every week. Shout out to those of you who are watching on YouTube as well as Spotify. Man, check this out. All right, so you see the title, Me, Myself, and AI. And when we say AI, we're not referring to Allen Iverson, a.k.a. Bubba Chuck, one of my favorite basketball players of all time. We're talking about artificial intelligence. If you've been following the crew, my homeboy Baylor, BTG for President is the name of his podcast. He recently did an episode called Me, Myself, and AI. And I told him I would remix it because we actually came up with the idea to do it on an episode together, and we just never got around to it. But the premise of the episode that he did recently, and it's going to be the same for me, what would you allow AI to do for you? Now, again, we came up with the idea and the concept, and he's already put that episode out, and you can check the show notes because that's where you will find his episode as well. I want you to take a listen to that as soon as you finish this episode. What would you allow AI to do for you? I could make a case that AI is already doing a lot for us, and I'm going to substantiate that in just a few. But, there's some things that we will allow AI to do for us, other things we won't. Before I get into it, I want to share a couple of things with you. As a few of you know, not a lot of you know, but I used to work for the United States federal government. One of the things that I can tell you unequivocally that I can share with you is that the United States federal government, when it comes to artificial intelligence, aka AI, they are behind. And I don't mean they're behind as in, this administration is slow or they're incompetent people that are running it, although that may be true. That's beside the point. The point I'm making is that they're behind because AI, in essence, had a 20-yard start. If it's a 100-yard dash, AI had a 20-yard start. And I think for a long time between the Biden administration and this current version of whatever you want to call an administration, I don't know that the people in place really understood where AI was going. They thought that it would just be maintained by, some of these tech companies like Meta and things of that nature, but they did not understand the volume and the vast range that AI would have. And subsequently, at least by my observation, they pushed it to the side. They pushed it to the side and they said, oh, well, yeah, we'll get to it. It's not that big of a thing. Zuckerberg and those guys have it under control. If only they did. And they did to some degree, but AI is everywhere. There's not anything that we do without AI. But I think it was very stupid for the federal government to take that stance or just make the assumption that nobody was going to use AI outside of the tech companies. I chuckled the other day when I got an email that said GSA, which stands for General Services Administration, is planning to automate 1 million work hours after losing nearly 40% of its workforce. You heard that right. Under this current administration, an estimated 40% of the people who were working for the federal government left. And GSA, which is the body that houses the employment structure for government jobs, um, decided that, hey, we're going to automate, this. We're going to create jobs, or some of the jobs that we have, delegate it to the point where um, AI will do the work for us. So where people have left jobs, or where people have been removed from jobs, or where jobs have been eliminated, we're now going to have AI do about 400,000 hours of work. And I'll give you the quote. It said, quote, "We have about 400,000 hours that are currently identified in ways that we could not replace people, but remove that non-high value added time and replace it by putting people in more high valuable opportunities within the agency." And it goes on to say that they want to bill over 1 million hours of work and deem it through AI. So the industry, or the function in the federal government that didn't think AI was going to be useful or sourceful just a few years ago, now is again 20 yards behind, but trying to catch up by using AI. I don't know how that's going to work, but it's not the only place that has used AI to, um, if you will, replace people. Case in point, there's a new retail store in San Francisco, and they don't have any human employees. Um, they have AI making the decisions. Is the boss is actually a artificial intelligence bot named Luna. She is the boss. Um, the store is a boutique store, opened April 1st in the Cow Hollow neighborhood of San Francisco. Um, and it's wild because Luna is making the calls. Luna is the AI bot that is the store operator and owner. Um, Luna is responsible for creating job listing, conducting interviews, did hire 2 humans to physically receive the packages, but outside of that, everything else is controlled by Luna, by AI. And it's crazy to think about it, but there's a bot, a robot running a retail store in a major city such as San Francisco. It's probably the first of its kind, but it won't be the last of its kind. Um, we're in a place now where AI has definitely taken over just about any and everything. And there are some jobs that have been replaced. I'll give you an example. Um, Last summer, I was in McDonald's, and I can't remember. I can't tell you the last time that I'd been in McDonald's prior to last summer, but I was actually inside of McDonald's with my kids, and they wanted some food. I wasn't gonna eat anything out there, but they had fries, so I got the fries. I always get McDonald's fries. Um, but one of the things that I noticed was, you know, instead of having 7 or 8 employees at the front, there was just one employee at the front, and everything else was, touch my screens. Excuse me, touch screens, and you touch the screens and you place your order. Um, just last week, I was at Bojangles. I was inside the Bojangles, and while there were humans taking my order inside Bojangles, at the drive-through, it was an automated AI recording that was taking the orders. And so there were no humans. Now, of course, you had to drive up to the drive-through and give your order to a human, but there was nobody at the first window to take an order. And so slowly but surely, there are jobs that are being replaced by AI. Um, So it goes back to the question that Baylor proposed. What would you allow AI to do for you? And again, I can answer that simply by saying AI is already doing a lot. I'll give you an example. As you look at this podcast that you're listening to, if you look at the captions and everything else that's involved with this podcast, the timestamps, the chapters, all of that stuff is done by AI. I'm not doing it. It actually formulates itself from the time that I press record until the time that I end this podcast. And generally speaking, it takes about anywhere from 30 seconds to a minute once I'm done to tabulate everything. It'll develop clips, that the clips that you see, and tell me which clip should be the best one to use. And I can adjust the clips and things like that. I can change other things, but AI does all of that. I don't have to do very much. Shout out to Riverside. Shout out to the very, very brand new place where you can actually see every episode. And that is Riverside, is called the 12 Kyle podcast.riverside.com. Same for the Rap Soul podcast, the Rap Soul podcast.riverside.com. Those are two new websites created by AI where every episode of this podcast and every episode of the Rap Soul podcast is now located and housed. And if you would like to check out, the podcast on Spotify, Apple, or things like that, you can do it through that website. But again, all of that was recently created by AI. 12 Kyle had nothing to do with it. All I had to do was push a button. And it's effective because I'm able to track where people are, who's listening, how many streams I have, things of that nature. And so why not? Again, AI is doing everything. But what would you not allow AI to do for you? Again, everybody that I know either uses Chat GTP or Claude. I know Claude is something relatively new. I haven't gotten to the point where I'm willing to pay for Chat GPT, but I might, because I'm finding that there's some things that it can do for me that I had not explored. And it's ways that it's helping me with some brainstorming things that I'm thinking about a little hustle that I've got going on. And so while it's a computer and, nothing is foolproof, just a little bit of data I've given it so far, it's come back pretty cool and pretty accurate. And it's been very helpful. But again, I'm on the free plan right now. Free 99 is what I want. But by the time you hear this episode, I may be paying for Chat GPT. I'll be honest. I'm just that close. But in saying all of what I said, it goes back to the question that Baylor posed. What would you allow AI to do for you? So I've got a couple of things. Would you allow AI to get yourself dressed? Now, if you're a fan like me of the TV show, the hit TV cartoon, The Jetsons, if I'm not mistaken, their robot, Rosie, that was her name, I think she got George dressed. Shout out to George Jetson. I wouldn't allow AI or robot to get me dressed because I like to put on my Jordans a certain way. I like them strung up a certain way. I like to throw on my hoodies a certain way. I'm not one that rolls them up and then puts it. Anyway, I, I don't want AI dressing me. And besides, I don't want AI touching me. I wouldn't want a robot touching me. I mean, bruh, I've been married for, at the time of this recording, 25, almost 26 years. My wife doesn't put my clothes on. And so I don't think I would want a robot to do that as well. Now, Baylor did mention getting his haircut by AI, an artificial intelligence barber, a robot barber. What do you think about that? For me, no. I don't want a robot cutting my hair. Yeah, true. I could sit in a chair and it could take, instead of taking, I don't know, 30 minutes that it takes to cut my hair, it could take 5 minutes. I mean, that would be cool. And then you would never have to leave your house. But as someone who, at the time of this recording, has just found a great barber, um, and I've come to find out and realize that much like everything else, you need a great barber in your life. And I've had one, but if you follow the podcast, I told you a few episodes back, a couple of months ago, that my barber had moved away, but I found a new barber, and the guy's really cool and he does a great job. So, no, I wouldn't want AI to cut my hair. Would you want AI to drive you in a car? Now, if you're in a major city, I'm pretty sure you've seen the Waymos. That's what they're called. Um, and I see Waymos all the time, every time I go downtown. I find it interesting because I don't live in the city of Atlanta. I live outside the perimeter, is what we call it. The perimeter is Interstate 285 that circles the city. I don't think I've seen a Waymo outside of outside of 285. I've always seen them downtown in the city, which is cool, but I don't necessarily know that I would want to see a Waymo on 285 or Interstate 20 or I-75, 85 driving at, 80 miles an hour without someone behind the wheel, because the artificial intelligence is actually driving the car. Now, if you have a newer car, there's certain artificial intelligence that's already programmed into your car. Like, I have Lexus, right? And when I'm driving the car, if I'm driving and there's a car that's stopping in front of me, the car will alert me that, and let's say I'm still on my gas, it's going to give me a signal that, hey, you need to hit your brakes, and it's going to slow the car down automatically. That's artificial intelligence. Because there are sensors and cameras that are constantly moving and reading information as I'm driving every millisecond. But would I want to just get in my car or get in a car and let a computer tell me, okay, I'm on Peachtree and 10th and I need to go to Spring Street? No, I'm not doing that. I'm not. Why would I get in a car and let the computer drive? No, I get the convenience of it, but I'm never doing that. It looks cool. It's probably less of a hassle. I mean, would you allow AI in essence to be your Uber driver? And that's what Waymo is. It's basically it's the Uber driver for you. I don't want that. I'm just gonna keep it a being with y'all. I don't want that personally. Would you allow AI to do your household chores? If I'm not mistaken, Rosie did a lot of the household chores on the Jetsons. She did the cooking, the cleaning, the washing of the dishes, which is interesting because she's a robot. She got wet and never short circuited or something like that. The washing dishes, folding clothes, ironing clothes, cleaning, making of the bed. Would I want a robot or AI to do that for me? Absolutely yes. Without doubt. I would want AI to do that because, quite honestly, those are chores that I don't like doing. Except making the bed. I like to make the bed, but that's about it. I mean, everything else, washing dishes, folding clothes is the worst. I would definitely get a robot to fold my fitted sheets. I'm 53 years old and I still don't know how to fold a fitted sheet. Folding fitted sheets is like pointless. There's a way that you do it, but it's pointless. But yeah, I would definitely let AI fold my fitted sheets as well as do the laundry. Would you allow AI to cook your food? No. And I'm going to tell you why. Because my food has to have a certain taste, it has to have a certain flavor, it has to have certain herbs and spices, and I can cook. I'm not telling you guys something that you don't already know. I can cook, and I've been cooking since I was 8 years old, right? I don't necessarily know if you give a robot, even if you tell them like, hey, this is what I like this much of paprika or this much of Old Bay on my salmon. Nah, they're not going to do it like me. So no, I don't want AI doing that for me. Yeah, I don't want them preparing my food. And what was interesting was, as I was telling you guys earlier about the story being in Bojangles, uh, I was standing there waiting on my food as, a human was preparing my food. And there was a lady behind me and she commented, and again, I've told you guys before in this podcast, like for some reason, I don't know why, but strangers just talk to me. I have no earthly reason why. I have my earbuds in just so she wouldn't say anything to me because I don't want to talk to people. And she made a comment about, the AI because you could clearly hear it, even though we were inside Bojangles, which is a fast food restaurant for those of you who don't have Bojangles in your town. Even though you could hear it, we were inside, but you could hear it from the drive-through. And she made a comment, about not liking to the computer to order it for her, and that's why she came inside. And I was like, hadn't really thought about it like that. But she didn't want to talk to the computer. She wanted to talk to a live human being. So, but at some point, I'm sure at Bojangles or maybe McDonald's, that lady's going to be talking to a computer full time. And I mentioned earlier about how McDonald's have replaced people with screens. So that version of AI is already in place and it's only getting more and more developed each day. And when you have situations like places in California where the cost of minimum wage has gone up, these companies aren't trying to make less money. So they're trying to get the maximum amount of work with the fewest amount of people that they have to pay. And if you could pay a kid part-time or you could pay someone or not pay someone at all and have a computer do it, you're going to have a computer do it. Would you want AI to be your therapist, helping you solve your problems or kind of talk you through any issues or things that's going on with you? Nah, I couldn't. Because I don't think AI is going to give me the standard answer, right? AI is going to tell if you if you go to your therapist and you tell your therapist, a human, that you're struggling with getting over, you know, your girlfriend that you broke up with that you had dated for 3 years, a human is going to give you the raw answer. They're going to give you the feeling. They're going to give you emotion. You're going to be able to see, and they're going to be able to see in you your body language and how you react to what it is that they're saying. AI is going to just give you a generic, it's going to tell you the right thing. It's going to tell you what to say or what to feel. But your therapist might say, man, get over that chick, fool. There's other fish in the sea. AI is never going to tell you that because it's not programmed to. So, yeah, I'm not talking to a therapist about, any problems or issues or goals or dreams or aspirations. I'll leave that to the humans. Would you allow AI to conduct your church service? Would you want a robot to preach a service to you? We're probably not far from that, but the answer for me is unequivocally no. And I can only think about my home church here in Atlanta. Shout out to Pastor Lee, Berean Christian Church. Just a couple of weeks ago, he had a sermon where the title of the sermon was "You Got to Let Them Know," and he started off the sermon by it was brilliant, but it was also comical. He started off the sermon by talking about how his favorite basketball team, the Atlanta Hawks, recently had a social media public PR fiasco with a gentleman's club in the city called Magic City, and they were trying to do a collaboration, and it backfired. It got a lot of outrage, and Pastor Lee goes on to say, "Well, he's like, it's this establishment called Magic City, but I know nobody in this church knows anything about Magic City." And of course, we erupt because it's funny, and he goes on to talk about T.I. was scheduled to perform. And he's like, you guys know T.I., you got the song out, got to let him know. And at that point, the music from the T.I.'s new hit, Let Him Know, starts playing in church, which is crazy because you would think that, I mean, it was just the instrumental, but you wouldn't think that a pastor would have the wherewithal to kind of combine, what's going on in the real world to his congregation. And he goes on to his sermon talking about how Christ let people know about who he was, and also not just Christ, but his disciples talked about to the people. They felt like they had to let the people know about how, who Jesus was, so forth and so on. But he did a great job of blending today and yesteryear with the Bible. And Pastor Lee to me is extremely intelligent, extremely funny. But no, an AI robot could never do that in a church. Never, ever. And there's a certain humanistic feel for those of you who go to church, because I understand everybody didn't go to church, right? But I'm almost certain that everyone listening under the sound of my voice who are watching me, I think you've been to church at least once, right? So you understand the connection that there is to you and the people around you and the word that you're receiving. It's not the same with AI. Not the same with AI at all. Would you allow AI to be your bodyguard? Yes. Yes, I would. Because I think AI, a robot, would guard me literally and figuratively with their lives. And maybe, just maybe, if somebody starts shooting at me, AI is going to get that bullet before I do. And it's going to deflect the bullet, all kind of stuff. Yeah. I would have a robot as a bodyguard. And I mean, worst case scenario, if we got to squabble, we got to scrap it out. You ain't beating no robot. let me get the Terminator as my bodyguard. You ain't beating the Terminator. You can shoot the Terminator. He ain't going down. So nah. A bodyguard, yes. Would you allow AI to go to the grocery store for you? Yes, I would. While I will say this, I enjoy going to I enjoy shopping at Publix, where shopping is a pleasure. If I could stay at home and send AI to go get my groceries, and they get exactly what I want, yeah, I do that. I do that in a heartbeat, because that's one less thing that I have to do. Here's one, Baylor. Would you allow AI to do your job? Now, I know that gets tricky for some of us, because some of us have jobs that, if we're not careful, just like the McDonald's people, AI could actually replace you in another 5 to 10 years. Hopefully all of us are retired and sitting on a bunch of wealth that we're not working another 10 years from now. But let's just say it doesn't happen. You don't want to be pushed out the door by AI. You don't want a robot or a computer doing your job. Remember that episode where on Good Times, where James got mad because he felt like his job fired him and they got a computer to do his job? And this was in the 70s. So James was, he was probably being very facetious, but at the same time, it probably did happen. Maybe he did get fired because they found a computer to do his job, and James only had a 6th grade education. So I said all this to say this: would I allow a robot or AI to do my job? No. I don't think a robot or AI could do my job. There's certain elements of AI is used in my job, but no, what I do for a living, you need human interaction. You need some eyes to look at stuff. You have to make critical decisions and critical thoughts. And while I think AI is programmed to do that, there's a human element that needs to be in the mix, and I don't think that can happen. At least not for my job. Would you allow AI to be your doctor and administer medicine? No, no, because again, I want that human interaction. I recently, a couple of weeks ago, had to go to the ear, nose, and throat doctor for my follow up about my allergies. My allergies are doing pretty good right now. But I did my follow up, and what was interesting was when I sat with Doc. When I sat with Doc before we got started, he had a little cell phone mechanism, and he said, "Well, hey, I have to." He's like, "Is it okay if I record this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, go ahead." And so he hits record, and so he and I are talking. We're just having a regular conversation, just like I'm having right now. But our whole interaction was recorded on that cell phone, and then it goes into a database, and it's basically um, transcribed into notes. And so it prevents him from having to physically take notes, even though he was taking notes as we were talking, because he was asking questions. I was giving him feedback. But everything that we discussed in that room was basically transcribed by AI. And I'd never seen that done before. And maybe it happens, other places. I don't, it never happened when I go to my, get my physicals at my regular doctor, my primary care physician. So yeah, maybe that's something new. Maybe that's something that they're only doing at ear, nose, and throat. I don't know. But it was interesting. But no, I want to have, and again, I didn't have a problem with him using it because he asked. But I prefer human interaction with my physicians. And last but not least, would you want AI to do music for you? No. I understand that there's a certain level of music that is done. You got to use computers, of course. But do I want my music to be done by AI? No. Do I want Scarface to create his rhymes on AI or Chat GPT or Claude? Do I want, Kendrick Lamar to come up with a song based on Chat GPT? No. I want my artists to go in the booth, figure it out. Are there artists doing that now as far as using AI? Oh, I'm almost certain that they are. Are there producers and beat makers, sound creators that are doing that? Oh, most certainly there are. Are there people who are creating movies via AI? Of course there are. But I think ultimately, and I'll end with this, I think ultimately you need that human connection. I'm not against AI. And I'm not one of those people who are also crazy enough to believe that AI is going anywhere. It's not. It is the wave of the future. And again, I told you earlier at the top of the podcast that much of what I do on this podcast, as far as what is created here that I present to you, is done via AI, and it'll be done as soon as I hit record. And it'll be done again when I stop recording. So, I mean, I'd be crazy to tell you that it's not worth it or it's not good. But I think in order for us to have some of the human connections that we have, in order for us to have some of the love that we have for each other, in order for us to have some of the success and some of the um, interactions that we have, it's got to be between humans. The computers are always going to be here. AI, for the most part, is always going to be here going forward. We just have to make sure that we take care of each other. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for me. Thanks again for checking out this edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast. We drop new episodes every Thursday. Also, don't forget about the best music podcast that you've never heard. It's called the Rap Soul Podcast. It's my music podcast. It's where we talk about music from the 80s, 90s, and the 2000s when it comes to rap, soul, and R&B and hip hop. Again, you want to make sure you check that out. We drop new episodes every Thursday. You can find the Rap Soul podcast wherever you're listening and watching this episode. And lastly, we have merch. If you're interested in 12 Kyle podcast merch, click the link in the description box, label merch. That way you can get 12 Kyle podcast t-shirts, hoodies, as well as coffee mugs. We got it for the low. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for me. Thanks again for checking out this edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. I am your boy 12 Kyle. I'll catch you guys next time. 5,000. Cheers.
Thanks again for listening to this episode of the 12 Kyle podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure that you hit the subscribe button and share this podcast with a friend who needs the 12 Kyle podcast in their life. Every listen, every download, and every share helps us grow. Thanks for being a part of the 12 Kyle podcast community. We appreciate your support. We will catch you next time. 5,000.